Oh no, no. Why is this always so difficult when filming book hauls? Like, this is the most difficult part of being a booktuber. Nobody tells you about it, but it most definitely is. No! Don't! No! I feel like this isn't even a good thumbnail. Hi everybody and welcome back to my booktube channel, Books with Leo. And today I have a small collected book haul for you guys. Well, small, it's not actually that small. There's quite a lot of books here like you just saw in the preview. This is just some books that I've acquired over the last few months. I just haven't filmed a book haul in a while, and there's quite a lot of books on my shelves and lying around my house that I haven't like properly hauled in a video, and I don't really feel the need to haul every single book I buy, but at the same time it's nice to show you guys what kind of books I've been buying and getting, and you know, what kind of books I might be interested in getting to read in the future. There's quite a lot of book of the month books in here as well. I haven't taken all of the book of the month books off of my shelves because then this would just be a book of the month haul. So I've just tried to focus on the last few boxes and then some of the books I've been extra interested in. And I'm also very happy to say that this video has also been sponsored by Book of the Month. We're besties now. Yay! So let's head on over to Sponsorship Leo, and she can immediately also haul the books that Book of the Month is having as a choice this month, so you guys can also see what's in the box. So let's do that. Hi everybody, it is I, Sponsorship Leo, to talk to you guys about Book of the Month. So thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video and making it possible for me to keep creating content on this booktube channel. So for those of you who don't know, Book of the Month is a very popular and fast growing online book service for readers, and it's their mission to promote new and emerging authors and to help you find the books that you love. Their team goes through many new releases and debuts and makes a curated selection so you can spend more time reading and less time researching. I'm still very excited to be working with Book of the Month, as they always have great books to choose from and they are risk-free, meaning you can skip their service any month, anytime, without charge. A small side note though is that Book of the Month currently does not ship outside of the US. I have a lot of viewers in the US though, so I still decided to partner up with them because I knew some of you might be interested in this service. Back to the good stuff, Book of the Month has the best price for new release hardcover fiction. In fact, you can get your first book for only $9.99 with code LEORA. So this month there are 5 books to choose from, so without further ado, let's take a look at them. The first book is True Biz by Sarah Novick. This is a transporting novel that follows a year of seismic romantic, political and familial shifts for a teacher and her students at a boarding school for the deaf, from the acclaimed author of Girl at War. I've never heard of Girl at War, but this sounds like a very interesting book, as I've not read a lot of books about deaf people either. Then we have a stunning debut. Look at that cover. This is Koyeki by Vaishnavi Patel. This is a tale of fate, family, courage and heartbreak of an extraordinary woman determined to leave her mark in a world where gods and men dictate the shape of things to come. The next pick is The Good Left Undone by Adriana Trigiani. I love this cover as well. This is historical fiction and it's a lush, immersive novel about 3 generations of Tuscan artisans with one remarkable secret. Then another option this month is Bittersweet by Susan Cain. This is a sort of self-help-esque book which reveals the power of a bittersweet outlook on life and why we've been so blind to its value. And then last but not least we have Like a Sister by Kelly A. Garrett. This is a mystery novel in which a black reality TV star is found dead in the Bronx, and no one bats an eye except her estranged half-sister, whose refusal to believe the official story leads her to a dangerous search for the truth. This would be my pick, as I always love to read about reality TV shows, especially when I want to watch one but I don't really want to watch one. Then a book like this sounds absolutely perfect, and I love a bit of mystery as well. So first time members can sign up with any book they like, so don't forget to head on over to bookofthemonth.com and use code LEORA to get your first book for only $9.99. Thank you so much for watching this vid, and to Book of the Month for sponsoring me, and let's now get back to the video. I hope you enjoyed your time with Sponsorship Leo. Now let's finally get into the book haul. So let's just start with some romance I picked up when I was in Amsterdam a few weeks ago. Basically the bookstore here in Rotterdam has a shelf of romance, but it's just never the romance I'm interested in. I don't know what is up with that, but just like never the books I've been on the lookout for. I can never find those on that shelf. But then I went to Amsterdam and I visited the American Book Center, which is one of my favorite bookstores. They always have a lot of good fantasy as well and a lot of good thrillers, and they have a great romance selection. So I was super excited to be picking up some romance books from there. And honestly, I had like a pile of, I think like 5 books in my hands, but I was like, no, there's literally no space in your apartment. Like, where are you gonna put them? I need to get a new bookshelf. I just don't know where to put it, to be honest. So I just picked up 2 books, which is like, I think, fair game, you know. So I picked up Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper, which was super popular last year around Halloween time. I absolutely adore witchy novels, and I adore Halloween and all that jazzy stuff. So, and this is also a sapphic romance, and it's about 2 witches, and I'm not really sure, like, I don't really know that much about what the actual plot of the story is, but I think it's got something to do with an ex and a powerful magical family, and then she runs back into another witch who's into the darker arts. Okay, that sounds very cool. Anyway, super excited to read this. I also love the cover. I think the font, sort of the 70s-esque font, is so cool. So yeah, really excited that I've picked this up. Ooh, and look at the chapter headings. Very pretty. Oh, I like that. Okay. Another book I picked up in Amsterdam was Hang the Moon by Alexandria Bellafleur, who's also the author of Written in the Stars. This is the 2nd book in that series, and this is about Brandon, who's the brother of Darcy. It's about Brandon and Annie is Darcy's best friend, and basically he and Annie sort of fall for each other in this book, and it's very cute, very adorable. I had a great time reading it, and I've also picked up the book after this one, which is called Count Your Lucky Stars. I've just started it. I'm listening to the audiobook, so very excited about that as well, but I definitely enjoyed this one. It was cute and sappy and romantic and very funny as well. Then I wanted to talk about some books I picked up at the thrift store. So this is Pepe Rubens, which is basically a book full of sketches and drawings and paintings that Rubens has made, and it's just a very dramatic looking book, and I like it that way. And also it's got some really stunning sketches of Rubens in there, and some very beautiful portrait studies that haven't been published before, and I just thought it was so cool. I found this at the thrift store. Yeah, so that's very inspiring for me as an artist as well. I used to do a lot of nude illustration back when I was in Art Academy because I had this nude drawing class, which was very cool. So I think this is so cool to see the way like Rubens draws curves and he accentuates the body. It's very well done and it's very beautiful. I mean, obviously it's well done. Like, nobody was doubting that at any point in time. So yeah, and I also always love having these books just to be able to cut them up and use them in my journals. And I know some people might be like, oh my god, heresy, she's cutting up a book. And I know, but it's my book and I found it at the thrift store, so I get to do whatever I like. And I've also underlined some of the parts in the text because it's also just interesting to be, you know, reading a little bit here and there in this book every now and then. This is not anything I'll be reading back to front, or front to back, I mean. I won't be reading it back to front either, but just something I like to page through and look at the illustrations and have a great time. And then another book I picked up at the thrift store is Magritte, De mooiste meesterwerken van Magritte, which is basically also an art book filled with Magritte's work, which is really cool as well. I love this style. It's very interesting to me. It's sort of collagey, but then also surrealist, and yeah, very weird and funky paintings. I guess most of you know Magritte, but yeah, I thought I'd show some of their work anyway. So this is also something I've just been paging through, and then every now and then using some of these paintings in my journals just to put them down, you know, make collages or just to be inspired by. And there's also quite a lot of text about Magritte and his life, which is also very cool. And this is another book I picked up at the thrift store. I always love buying art books at the thrift store, if you hadn't noticed yet. And then this book I bought recently with a gift card I got from my friend because it was my birthday. This is Classic Works from Women Writers, and it's such a beautiful copy. Like, I love this style, and also the back is, oh my god, look at that spine. This is something you want on your bookshelf, or at least when I saw it I was like, I need it right now. It's also got these gold sprayed edges, and I just love having these special editions, and the back is also stunning. It's just so beautiful. And basically this is just a book filled with classic works from women authors, like I said. So there's Agatha Christie, Charlotte Perkins Gilman, Jane Austen, Elizabeth Gaskell. There's so many things in it, and I know that the whole of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley is also in this. So when October rolls around, I'm just planning on reading Frankenstein in this book, which is very exciting. That's one of the reasons I got it, because I wanted to read Frankenstein anyway, so I was like, what a great solution. As we all know, I'm not the most adept with classics. There's a few authors I enjoy, but haven't really nailed the genre down, I feel like. So I'm not entirely sure if Frankenstein's gonna go over, because I've heard it's quite complicated, but I'll give it a try anyway. And I think there's also some other stories in here that I was interested in. I just don't remember their names right now, but I know that The Voyage Out by Virginia Woolf is in here. And I've also seen that there's some poems in there, by the Bronte sisters, so that's also very exciting. That's this one. Then there is Tell Me Everything, the Story of a Private Investigation by Erika Krause, which was in the Book of the Month box from March. And this cover just immediately like spoke to me personally, just because I like collages, okay guys? So I saw this and I was like, that looks cool and I want to read it. So I think the main character is a private investigator, which is always interesting to read about, like characters that are like outside of the system. And she's trying to like crack open this case of sexual assault, but she like has no idea what she's actually doing. But she has quite a personal history with sexual violence, and so it's quite difficult for her, but she takes the job. And then it says, over the next 5 years, Erika learns everything she can about PI technique, tracking down witnesses and investigating a culture of sexual assault and harassment ingrained in the university's football program. So I think this is going to be a very interesting book. I'm hoping it's like a bit of feminism, a bit of investigative journalism-esque, and then just tension. So I think this could possibly be something I would very much enjoy, and also think it's very interesting, but I'm not really sure because like I don't know, this is like the type of story that could also be difficult to read, you know, make you like a little bit sad, but a valuable read nonetheless, I think. So I do really want to read this. Then I also picked up Trader's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. I picked this up mostly because I saw Book Roast talking about it, and she said it was very funny and witty, and I love a fantasy novel that makes me laugh out loud. That's just all I want, basically. So I immediately had to go buy it, but every bookstore I visited didn't have it in stock because it's quite an old book. Well, it's not old, but it's like not recent either. I think it's from like 2014, something like that. I don't know what it is about really, and reading the back just made me very confused. So I feel like I'll only be able to explain this to you as soon as I've actually read it. But it says The Great Coats, Book 1. The king is dead, the Great Coats have been disbanded, and Falcio, Valmont and fellow magistrates Kest and Brasti have been reduced to working as bodyguards for a nobleman who refuses to pay them. Things could be worse. Their employer could be lying dead on the floor while the three of them are forced to watch as the killer plants evidence framing them for the murder. Oh wait, that's exactly what's happening. Okay, so there's a murder, there's fantasy things, and also I always thought this series was called The Grey Coats, as in like grey coats, you know, grey the colour, but it's called The Great Coats. And I just never knew that, so that's funny. Then another Book of the Month book from the March box was The Unsinkable Greta James, and this one immediately caught my eye because of the 70s vibes, and I love a good 70s vibe, so I really wanted to pick this up. And I think it's about a musician, which is also always cool to read about. I love reading about famous people. Her mother has died and she's sort of like estranged from her father, and they go on a cruise together and they try to get to know each other, but it's messy and there's lots of things happening. And I think also the cruise was supposedly first meant for her father and her mother to go on together as like an anniversary thing. So I'm expecting this to be a novel that deals with grief, but also just a novel that is funny and interesting. I always love reading about musicians and their lives and famous people, and yeah, the cover is really pretty, so. Then another book, I think this is my most recent book I bought. Well, I also just bought some Oscar Wilde books, but those are coming in today and I didn't have the patience to wait for them, so but this is like before that. This was the most recent buy. This is Damn Horny by Marie-Loze Hage and Nydia van Voorthuizen, which is a Dutch book, and then yes, it is a book filled with sex stories, and I did buy this and I also got it signed by the authors. Look. So these two, Marie-Loze and Nydia, are some of my favourite feminists here in Holland. They run a feminist platform called Damn Honey. They do a podcast, they've written some feminist manifestos, and they're just really, really cool, and I love their works. And now they are writing sex bundles with sex stories and like feminist inclusive sex stories. And the cool thing is that they always invite a bunch of authors to write short stories for the bundle. So authors of colour, you know, disabled authors, all sorts of authors, queer authors, just a collection of intersectional feminists all wrote sex stories, and that's this bundle. So I'm really interested in reading this. I'm not sure if it'll actually get me, you know, hot and heavy, but it'll be a fun time anyway. And also this cover is just really cute and like sort of retro, so I love it. And then we have The Book of Nights by Holly Black. This is an ARC I kindly got sent by Penguin. Thank you so much, Penguin, for sending me this ARC. It's absolutely stunning, and on the back it has a quote and it says, "Once upon a time a boy was born with a hungry shadow," and it just looks very stunning. So this is Holly Black's first adult book, I think, and it's very cool. It's fantasy. I'm currently in the middle of it. It's basically this world that is very similar to ours, except at some point in time a scandal happened and then it came to light that several people among us have like a magic shadow basically that they can do things with. And shadow magic is sort of, you feed your shadow all your darkest desires in the dark parts of yourself, and then the shadow sort of gets stronger off of that and also off of your blood. So it's very much a book about the dark sides of people and the dark sides of our characters and the bad decisions that we make and how they lead us into worse situations. And it's very interesting. The main character is also not quite a good person, but definitely a very, very interesting main character. A lot of the side characters are intriguing. There's murder, there's mayhem, there's plot twists. So far, I've really been enjoying it, so I'm having a great time with this read. It's very moody though. It's like kind of a moody, dark vibe overall. Then another book that caught my eye from one of the Book of the Month boxes was Dating Dr. Dill, just because this cover is so soppy already. I'd like immediately never pick it up myself, but now that I've got it, I'm like, this might be a lot of fun, so maybe I should just read it. All that I know is that this is about a woman that doesn't really want to date anybody, but then there's this Dr. Dill, supposedly, that really likes her and does want to date her. But like, honestly, I don't know. That's probably not the actual plot. There's probably a little bit more to it, but just this cover just looks like very trashy. Sorry. So I thought, you know, this might be a really fun time, and maybe it's actually a good book. I don't know. If you've read it, let me know what you thought of it. Okay, then one of my friends sent me a memory called Empire by Arkady Matin, which is, I think, a sci-fi book. It looks very much sci-fi-esque, but honestly, I don't really know what this is about. I don't know anything about this book. It says, in a war of lies, she seeks the truth. Ambassador Mahit Desmarais is posted far from her mining station home to the Empire's glorious capital. Yet, when she arrives, she discovers her predecessor was murdered, but no one will admit his death wasn't accidental, and she might be next. Okay, so there's murder and sci-fi. That's a combination I haven't read about a whole lot before. Some of the blurbs on the back say, a cunningly plotted, richly imagined tale, the most thrilling ride ever. This book has everything I love. Ooh, that was by Charlie Jane Enders, and I loved some of Charlie Jane Enders' books before, so maybe I should pick this up sooner than I planned to. The cover is definitely very sci-fi, and I love the gold foil, so yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. Then I got sent another book by the publisher, and this is What Planet Can I Blame This On by Ellie Pilcher. And honestly, this is me when anything goes wrong in my life. I'm like, what planet can I blame this on? Is Mercury in retrograde? Is anything in retrograde that might affect me? A Libra, Aries, Cancer, disaster. So let me read back to you. I know that this is a romance and it has something to do with astrology, which I adore, because also these books that I just told you about also have a lot of astrology references in them, which is also why I enjoy them extra much. So it says, it's Crystal's 29th birthday. This year she got engaged, only to find out he'd been cheating for years. She landed her dream job at Craze magazine and lost it 2 weeks later. She moved into a gorgeous new flat just for a broken pipe to kick her out of it. As she mourns all that's wrong in her life, her best friend mutters the dreaded words, Saturn return. When Saturn moves back to where it was on the day of your birth, and, according to legend, everything falls apart. Crystal has never bought into astrology. That's funny with a name like that. But it's time to reevaluate, because if the stars got her into this mess, maybe they can get her out of it. Okay, that sounds very fun. I feel like this is just a fun romance that I'd love to pick up in between, and yeah, I don't have a lot of other things to say about it other than that I really think the cover is very cute. Then we have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, also from the March box of Book of the Month. I'm very, very excited for this one. I've loved earlier works of Lucy Foley, and I also still have the guest list on my shelves that I really want to pick up at some point. All I know is that this is an apartment building in Paris and there's a murder, and then everybody in the building is a suspect, which is a very classic setup for a murder mystery story. But yeah, I just love Paris, so I really want to read this, and I really hope it's going to be as good as Lucy Foley's other work. Then this is a little book I bought recently as well. This is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. This is my new favorite thing ever. I will not shut up about it. I've been going on and on and on about it, and I'll keep doing that. This is one of my new favorite books. It's basically the poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote some letters to a friend of his, and they're basically like advice to all artists and authors and, you know, people that paint and do artistic things. And it's also just a love letter to the arts, and it's full of advice and it's full of wisdom, and it's very funny as well and very dramatic, and I just had such a great time reading it, and I've annotated it. I've made lots of notes in it. It's a very short read, so if you just want to read something quickly and you also want to be blown away with wisdom and just, I don't know, just unexpectedly relate to something that was written a long time ago. And if you do art yourself, you know, if you do any sort of artistic creative thing, I just think you would really adore this. So highly recommend it. And it's also only like €3 or so just buy it. You don't have to rationalize everything. Then we have How Do We Know We're Doing It Right by Pandora Sykes, which is also a question I frequently ask myself. I came by Pandora Sykes because I think she's friends with Dolly Alderton. Maybe they do a podcast together. I might have misremembered that, but I might also be right. So this is an essay collection by her, and I had this period a few months ago when I was reading a lot of essay collections and mostly ordering a lot of essay collections that I still have to pick up. And this is one of them. But also the title really spoke to me because there's somebody that's in her 20s and that's figuring out lots of things at the same time and not sure what she's doing. There's some essays in there on fast fashion, millennial burnout, the explosion of wellness, and the rise of cancel culture. And it says, wide-ranging, thoughtful and witty, How Do We Know We're Doing It Right explores the anxieties and myths that consume our lives and the tools we use to muddle through. So that sounds really good, and I also really think the cover is very cool. I love like the combination of sort of that bright pink and that green, so very pretty. This pile of books next to me is becoming messier by the second, and it's not a pretty sight. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is one from the November Book of the Month box, and that is The Keeper of the Night by Kylie Lee Barker. This cover immediately just sort of grasped my attention because it's very, like, the contrast is very cool, and I love the way the illustration was like combined with a font. I just think it looks really cool. So it has some text on the back. I am too dangerous to let live any longer. It is written in the Book of Anku, decreed by the High Reaper himself. Death will come to find me, but I will no longer be there. Ooh. All I know really is that this is about somebody who's been collecting souls, who's like a soul reaper of some sort, expected to obey the harsh hierarchy of the reapers, who despise her due to her mysterious mother and even more mysterious Shinigami powers. Ren conceals her emotions and avoids her tormentors as best as she can. Okay, so I think this is just going to be a very cool dark fantasy. I've been really interested in picking it up, but it was like on a really high shelf on my bookcase, so I kind of forgot I owned it, which is ridiculous. Let me know if you've read this or if you've heard any good things about it, because honestly I haven't heard a lot about it, but I do really want to pick it up at some point because it sounds very cool and like a dark sort of fantasy. Then we have The Cartographers by Payne Shepherd. I think this is about a cartographer who's like in this sort of cartographers society, and there's a mysterious map that has gone missing, and then her father gets murdered, and I think it's also set in like a library, yes, in the New York Public Library. So there's lots of things there that interest me a lot. I love stories set in libraries having to do with books. It says here, perfect for fans of Joe Hill and V.E. Schwab. I love both. The Cartographers is an ode to art and science, history and magic, a spectacularly imaginative modern story about an ancient craft and places still undiscovered. So it sounds like a dark family history as well, which is very cool. And this cover, guys, this could be a poster, right? There's like a bookshelf and there's little doors in between the books, which is so cool. So yes, very excited about this one. Then we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, which is the second book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. This is a time travel book series, and these are very cute, very short books, and they're basically about this cafe where you can get a cup of coffee and travel back in time in the cafe, and you basically read all these separate stories of people who travel back in time and why they traveled back in time and what's happened to them. And it's most of the time very heartbreaking, but also very beautifully written and funny, and you know, just the type of story that sort of warms you up but also makes you think about life. And I've read the first one and I really enjoyed it, even though it was a bit slow and like a bit dry here and there, but I did have a good time reading it and I did really like it, and it sort of like touched me, you know, it made me think about things. So when I saw the second book in the bookstore and it was on sale, I was like, okay, I'll just get it now. And also I love the covers and I think they look very cute, and it also has these kind of gold foiling details, and you know, if there's anything that gets me to buy a book, it's gold foiling, so I'm really excited about having this one now and picking it up sometime soon. And then last but not least, a book, oh wait, it's not the last one actually, because I also have a cookbook. I forgot about my cookbook, guys. Okay, so then I have a whole other thing, which is a cookbook. This is Happy One Pot Vegetarian by Rebecca Seal and Chantal Simmons. Yeah, I know this is not usually what I talk about on this channel. This is also a book I bought, guys, so I am going to be discussing it. So this is just a cookbook filled with one pot vegetarian meals, like it says, but there's just so many things in here that looked so good to me, and I wanted to sort of like spice up my cooking and try some new things because I love cooking. And if there's anything I love even more than cooking, it's not having to wash a lot of dishes. So that's why this spoke to me and my soul. And yeah, so technically I'm a pescatarian, so I do eat fish very rarely. So yeah, very excited about using this and making some really good food. And then last but not least, I have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was a gift from a subscriber, so thank you so much. I have loved Jennifer Lynn Barnes's earlier series, which was about basically kids joining the FBI, I think, or the CIA or something like that. It was kind of wild, that series, but it felt like Criminal Minds, you know, so I had a good time reading it. And this is, I think, about a girl who unexpectedly inherits a bunch of money, like $46.2 billion. That's a lot of money. She's invited to this mansion to collect the money. She doesn't really know the person that she inherited this money from, and so when she gets to the mansion, she finds out that his grandsons are there, and they expect her to inherit everything because, like, who's she? You know, they don't know who she is. So that's where this story starts, and I think it's like sort of a game of who gets to win the money in the end. That's all I know. I know it's also a mystery, and I know I've had lots of people talk about it on BookTube, so I'm really interested in picking this up, and I really hope I will enjoy it as much as her other series, and it will be as wild and interesting. So that was my collected book haul of some of the books I've bought over the past few months. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got some good recommendations of books you could possibly also want to buy or pick up maybe sometime soon. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what books are still on your wish list, what books you still really want to get. And yeah, I'll see all of you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys! I think this is because I have no mathematical insight, so I just don't know how to stack them properly. And if I did have mathematical insight, this would just be easier. I just know it would be. Yes. No.